Oh man, Castle of Frankenstein. Now this is of course the people that gave you scary monsters. They brought back this something from before my time, but I was aware of this Castle of Frankenstein magazine, sort of a fanzine. It was like the more mature kind of instead of the like some of the reprints you see. I mean, famous monsters, the knockoffs, the horror monsters from Charlton. A lot of this stuff was like okay, silly. You had all the puns. You had the funny, the photos for like for little kids. It was like, hey, we don't want to scare the little kids. We want them to, have a little fun with it, a little campy fun or whatever. Right? But of course, the Castle Frankenstein was for like the teenagers, so it was like a little more trying to be in depth. People who are familiar with, perhaps filmmaking and auteurs and going to like different movie theaters where they'd show these films and others. And they sort of bring that back here. The staff is usually different. I think there's some pros in here and more regular writers than obviously the more fan oriented scary monsters. But I think there's I don't think that I think maybe many of these people are just a step above that or not. I don't know. Maybe they're all fans as well. So we got that cat. Oh, okay, all right. So we got Frankenstein in the house. So we're going go here. And I give him credit for starting a retail place somewhere in Arkansas. Sorry, Arkansas. So, and once again, this guy, they always start out strong. This guy, man, right? This dude always comes up, like I said, with pretty obscure films, or maybe films that were in front of you and you just overlooked them, and he goes over them, like Baseball Bimbos and Hillbilly Hell. Like this would be a movie they would show like on USA Network back in the day, USA Up All Night, and I always like how he does it. He has a good mix, right? And he always shows where you can watch these films, oftentimes for free. I would say I would probably say that all these films you can watch for free. So I kind of like that aspect of it, the interaction of it. So this movie looks crazy. This sounds really good. Blood Scarab. Of course, it's Don Bluth, who had an interesting writing career. There's lesbian vampires. Ooh, yeah. But I like the idea that there's a vampire. She wants to walk in the sun, so she's going to tangle with an Egyptian sorceress mummy. Well, that's up my alley. Okay, we got a monster mash going on. Well, we'll see how good it is. I'll definitely check it out. Now we go to this. Oh man, I love George Méliès, man. I try to watch whatever stuff there is. The idea that like almost half of the stuff he did doesn't exist anymore is it's like get a little wince from that, but so much of it does. Of course, this is an adaptation of Bluebeard. I saw this. I remember, the scene with the women hanging. Of course, Bluebeard was a notorious murderer, or at least a tale of a murderer, or murdering his wives. And of course, George Méliès sets this all up, and he actually he often plays the protagonist. So the DIY aspect. Well, this is at the dawn of filmmaking. I mean the Méliès stuff. It can be. I remember as a kid seeing it. It was a little off-putting. It's like very otherworldly for many reasons. It's surreal. Obviously, we still have stage. Everything is like a stage to a stage. But man, some of the stuff, most of the stuff is amazing. I'd like to make a stab at a Méliès type thing, and I think I will. I have a pretty an idea. Of course, in the vein of my evil thoughts, but the Boogeyman. Okay, now the Boogeyman. I remember this. This is a weird film. You look at this, you think, okay, it's another it's like Halloween. It's another evil slasher film. But this movie is absolutely. What does he say? Right. The thing is nuts. Right. This movie is crazy, dude. It's not. It's the psycho killer is like for 2 seconds in the beginning. This is like a supernatural movie, dare I say, in some ways similar to like Final Destination, but it's just the implausibility effect in this movie is about 250%. Yui Lamo, right, the German filmmaker, I had gone over a posthumous interview with him, before, right? You could check it on Daily Motion. I keep forgetting about Daily Motion. I seen a bunch of things on there. Anyway, the butchers. Oh, the guy Mel from Alice, the cook, right? Remember him? Vic Tayback. But this movie, Talia Shire is in this. You forget she was in a lot of like horror type stuff before she was in The Godfather. The Butchers. This sounds pretty good. Never heard of this film, right? But it sounds interesting. Peter Lorre. Oh, it's like the Phantom of the Opera, but like not. I never heard of this film. This film, what a movie! I have this. I got this. Actually, I got this on DVD for like $5. This is a great film. You got Peter Cushing. You got, of course, Donald Pleasance. You know, playing the Burke and Hare situation. Of course, Cushing is the doctor who requires cadavers, right, from the resurrection men, right, the guys who dig up the bodies to give, you know. And of course, the whole Burke and Hare, if I need to, you know, everyone knows this, right? You know, these Irish immigrants, all this is in Edinburgh, right, in Scotland, but these are Irish immigrants. They got the freshest bodies for the doctors because they were murdering people on the street. So when they murdered a woman, a prostitute, and eventually what happened was, you know, of course, and it's shown in this film too in a cynical way, you know. He, of course, gets away with his reputation slightly marred. One dude gets hung and the other dude gets street justice. Of course, remember Donald Pleasance? He's like, with the lime pit. They're like, no, actually, I don't think they have. I think they used a torch in this that was what actually happened to the real Hare, right? He's like, don't take my eyes. You know, don't take my eyes, right? And it's like, yeah, we're gonna take your eyes, mate. Yeah, what a fucking. That's the acting I'm talking about. That's the actors, man. Donald Pleasance, and a bunch of stuff I never heard of. Wait, was it Green Insect? Wait a minute, Blue Monkey. I remember this movie. I remember the on the subway when it was still at 90 cents for a subway ride in New York. Blue Monkey, right? I remember the poster for this. Honeymoon of Horror, I'm not familiar with. They're all honeymoons of horror, aren't they? You never know unless you, you know, you both pass away married, right? And once in a new moon. What is this? Oh, this is what I'm saying. This is interesting. Like, I'm saying the guy goes over things I never heard of, man. Of course, unfortunately, this is my least favorite Franco film, but it is bizarre. It is bizarre, you know. He likes the two campy gay vampire guys, the two male cousins. I don't know. This is, like I said, this is like my least favorite Jean Roland vampire film. And you get, of course, this Eric von Stroheim. This is that All Rain, like a remake of that idea, the woman born without a soul. Right? Interesting. She's like an artificially created woman, but she has no soul. It reminds me a bit of The Great God Pan, but I don't really know if that was. I mean, this originally was a silent German, I believe, film series. I think before the war, the first war. Vampire Trailer Park. Never heard of this, but I never heard of this. Vicious Lips. What is this? May I please go back to the 80s? Yeah. A lot of us want to go back. Man, I would go back. I would have a list of people. That I would just be, you know, I would play pranks on. Right. I don't think I appreciated it the first time around. Okay. This guy passed away. Albert Punt. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but this dude. Look at this. The future where rock music has gone galaxy-wide. The hottest of all spots is Maxine's Radioactive Dream, of course. Remember Radioactive Dreams? Remember that movie? That's a great movie. Post-apocalyptic film he did. And this is also the guy that did The Sword and the Sorcerer. But this film, you have basically an all-female band in outer space. Interesting. They crash land on a planet where there's ghoulish illusions, nightmares, and a malevolent alien criminal aboard their ship. Look at this. I never heard of this. Oh man, you know I'm watching that. Anyway, good selection, bro. So I only got some stuff. I don't want to go over everything. I don't want you to be something. Oh, I could still a more movie I could watch, despite all. You know me in the war, but I could still watch Sands of Iwo Jima because I always remember as a kid. And this is interesting that something about now. Of course, this is the AI stuff creeping in. I really don't look at this. I mean, just look at this. I mean, straight up, no offense to anybody. You can see, you can feel that it's not alive. Like all rain, it's born with this life without a soul. Right? But this is, of course, about the different resurrections in the Dracula films. Of course, jeez, I remember this kid that ran out of the room with this scene in Dracula Prince of Darkness. Jesus. But they go over some of the other ones. Of course, remember, the Dracula has rhythms from the grave. Remember Paul? They mentioned this scene. The guy from Blood of Satan's Claw is the hero. One of the greatest scenes in a movie, in a Dracula film or any film, is when he stakes Dracula. But like, in order for him to die, for some reason they have to say the prayer. Remember? And you see Dracula with the stake in him. And he's like, with blood coming out of his mouth, and he's like, say the words, say the words. The cowardly priest is telling him to say. Remember, he's an atheist. He says, you can't say it. You say it. You're a priest. You say it. Remember, that fucking scene was great. Excuse my language. I've got the great underrated scars of Dracula. Remember the beginning of that? Anyway, this is not for going down memory lane. We're going to end this. Of course, EC Comics. Now, EC Comics, I mean, I would say they're not overrated. They're not my favorite. I prefer some of the more obscure Golden Age, pre-code horror stuff. But just because I think I've seen every Tales from the Crypt and whatnot story, between the movie that was made in the 70s and of course the TV show, the overrated TV show. I sort of give short thrift to EC Comics, but this was an interesting article doing what you should. There's stuff in here I learned that I didn't know about. Of course, Bill Gates, there he is, kind of a and you get to see. What's interesting about this article was it actually shows. I always said, when did comics really start? When you had a comic strip, well, it started with this guy, okay, Max Gaines. Everyone, they're all Brooklyn people, so to speak, right? Russians, but regardless, it's interesting. The father was how the father was kind of a dick, but he was definitely wanted to make money. Any way he could. And he had one of the first ideas of combining comic strips together in a single book. You had Dell Publishing even back then. Max was the guy. He assembled a 36-page book with comic strips and a wraparound cover. In view of the format, it is generally regarded as the first American comic book. That's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. It's also interesting, too, that this guy is not coming out of the pulps. Like the pulp stuff. He's coming at it from a totally different direction, area of publishing. So I thought that's kind of, right off the bat, that was interesting. So these are some of the early ones you had, right? It was a Schlock operation. Schlock, what is that? Is that Russian? Sheldon, but then you see names like Sheldon Mayer, Moldoff. You see a lot of guys. Feldstein. You see a lot of the people that you would later see in the EC Comics. So it's interesting. The idea of these two guys, Joel Siegel, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Hey, we have an idea of a superhero, okay? Of course, Superman, the reverse John Carter, as I call it. And the idea, but there's got a publisher of core girly magazines who's also known to rub elbows with the mob. What mob? So, what are you talking about? He doesn't have an Italian name. All right, don't. All right. So it's interesting that they had these superheroes, right? The first superheroes, and immediately the high-flying Musar, when Don Feld impulsively sold off half of it to his accountant, Jack. Interesting. Now, the buyout was good financially for the dad, but then of course he started his own company. So educational comics, But then the son starts getting involved in the publishing, of course. And his dad, like I said, the dad's kind of a dick to him. So he comes out of the army. He meets this guy. Basically, you could argue Stan Lee's Jack Kirby is this guy, Feldstein. Was it Al Feldstein? I don't remember, but this was the creative guy. They decided, and who's this guy? Victor Fox. the comic book industry didn't attract as many shady characters as like the liquor and gambling, but you had you got these guys. This is what I'm saying. Bald, gruff, with a horn glasses and a cigar in his teeth. He treated his artists and editors like dirt. Well, you see where the guys are coming from. Anyway, and the idea of, hey, I like this. We're doing Western crime, right? The crime comics, right? Uh, why are we following these idiots when the trend dies getting caught? Why don't we innovate and have people follow us? Okay, so these guys are fans of science fiction and horror. Why don't we try horror? And they remembered pretty much, I guess, the old radio shows, which makes sense if you look at the horror comics in particular, they sort of are like visual versions of those horror radio things you had on the what do you call them, the serials or whatever. They seem to not be as much descended from the weird tales type stuff. It goes in two different directions. That's the stuff that fascinates anyway. Let me just, and you see other names that you see later. Shelley Moldoff, right? Sheldon Moldoff. You see these names that you see later. Blacklisted. You mean these guys blacklisted each other? I thought only the evil Americans who didn't like poor communists did that. Anyway, you know what? I'll continue. I'll continue on with this. I've gone on enough. There's going to be two vids. So, with the comics.